What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Recently, I made a video on the things I do within a voice training session on a daily basis. It's in real time. I did a lot of the exercises I have done over the past 2.5 years, and I've decided to make another one. I'm still striving to get the voice that I want. I do believe I've gone a long way, but there are still things I believe I can work on. And when the things you work on are a little different, you start to do different exercises. So here it is. I'm going to try to elaborate a little bit. I was trying to do it as a little kind of ASMR kind of thing, and I did it in words in the previous video to kind of highlight this is what this is for. But maybe before I go into an exercise, I will explain to you exactly why I would be doing it and what objective it would be targeting. Like I said in the previous video that is like this, I am not a speech therapist and I will not act as if I am one or claim to be one. And these exercises may or may not help you. They cater to certain goals, certain objectives. You may struggle with something else that these exercises will not aid you in. So if you do not know anything about me in particular, my name is DIMITRIA SPARROW and I'm here to make you the long, cool woman femme that I know you can be. Follow my Instagram and Facebook for the latest updates and content. And if you like videos like this, be sure to subscribe. You will not want to miss what is next in this journey to freedom and femininity. So I'm going to start with some neck stretches. A lot of this is going to be in real time. Every time you breathe out, the stretch becomes a little greater. There it is. I'm used to doing this without makeup on because when I do the water gurgling like last time, it ruins your makeup and lipstick. But I'm actually not even doing the water gurgling this time. So I don't know why I'm slacking. Going downwards. Can't have a middle part, it's very unflattering for me. Actually, let me rotate all around. Goodbye, ponytail. You're kind of taught when you do this to sort of feel like a bobblehead after you've done that, and I kind of do. So next I'm going to be doing a laryngeal massage, which is composed of a few parts and a few exercises. So I found my thyroid notch, as in your Adam's apple, and you're just stroking from up to down. A little bit gag reflex at first. This is actually perfect lighting for this because the silhouette here, the next things we're going to do, you're going to be amazed at what happens. But for now, And so now I'm going to wiggle the larynx side to side. Get ready for this. Next, I'm going to actually feel like the water gurgling effect. It's almost doing the same effect. I feel like I'm warming up quite a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is basically wiggle the hyoid bone back and forth. Apparently, it's the only floating bone in your body. And it's kind of difficult to kind of find it, but I probably can't talk if I'm going to find it. If you feel something jutting out, you found the hyoid bone. I'm going to stretch my cricothyroid muscle. So I'm going to take 2 fingers here above my Adam's apple and 1 pair below. It's hard to show you. You're basically stretching them away from each other. Getting a little lightheaded. So I'm all warmed up. I am going to read a Wikipedia article because I basically just need something to read. Black Sabbath were an English rock band formed in Birmingham in 1968 by guitarist Tony Iommi, drummer Bill Ward, bassist Geezer Butler, and vocalist Ozzy Osbourne. They are often cited as pioneers of heavy metal music. The band helped define the genre with releases such as Black Sabbath, Paranoid, and Master of Reality. The band had multiple lineup changes following Osbourne's departure in 1979, with Iommi being the only constant member throughout its history. After previous iterations of the group called the Polka Talk Blues Band and Earth, the band settled on the name Black Sabbath in 1969. They distinguished themselves through occult themes with horror-inspired lyrics and down-tuned guitars. Signing to Philip Records in November 1969, they released their first single, Evil Woman, in January of 1970. Their debut album, Black Sabbath, was released the following month. Though it received a negative critical response, the album was a commercial success, leading to a follow-up record, Paranoid, later in 1970. The band's popularity grew, and by 1973's Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, critics were starting to respond favorably. So now I'm working on flow. As you can tell in the last two videos I did, my voice is slightly different, and I am working on flow, and flow essentially means the amount of air that is coming through your vocal cords. So I used to be sounding a little bit more on this end, and now it's a little bit more breathy. So these are a lot of exercises that come into play. So I have an assortment of words. I do a few things with these words. So normally I'd go think, think. But if I wanted to add some flow to it, I would go think, think, thought, thyroid, thing. It's hard to figure out at first, but I'm basically trying to focus on to literally feel how much air is coming through. And you also want to make it that your voice is easy to do, because if you go through a very nasally voice like this, things tend to be a lot harder to get into that voice. I find it puts more strain onto your vocal cords. Thigh, straight, super, side, simple, strange, how. So you can feel the breath coming in, and also with WH words, it's sort of like, it's kind of like how Johnny Cash kind of goes like, when it's like when. And you can kind of start off with that. Hulu, her, handmaid, however, however, shambles, sure, champagne, shimmy, show, whenceforth, why, which, went, whenever, 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 whenever. So the next thing I do is I basically try to make these sound louder, because when you add a flow, you start to notice that it's harder to do it when you start to speak up a little louder. And I noticed that at work, well, I'm in quarantine right now, but with earplugs on, and especially with a mask on, you have to speak a little bit louder like this for people to hear you. And so I want to be able to keep that flow, but I want to be able to up the volume at the same time. So I kind of go from low to medium to high. So again, this is all in real time, just to give you an idea of what I do in order to get my voice to this place in this period of time. Think, think, think. And I also want to keep in mind, there shouldn't be strain as it gets louder. Thought, 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 thyroid, 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 thing, thing, thing. Thigh, 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 straight, 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 straight. straight. Again, this is in real time to basically give you an idea of how many times I have to catch myself. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, I missed the flow in that. Side, side, side. Simple, simple. Nope. Simple, simple, simple. Strange, strange, strange. How. See, that was good. Hulu, Hulu, Hulu. Handmade, handmade. However. And the reason I do this is because I want to get the flow and what I perceive that as more feminine when I start shouting, because you'll find when you start shouting or when you're angry, like the man comes back. So this is one of the ways to train your voice to be able to sort of get around them. Shambles, shambles, shambles. Sure, sure, sure. Champagne, champagne, champagne. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Show, 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 show. Whenceforth, 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 whenceforth. Why, why, why? Which, which, which? Went, went, went. Whenever, whenever, whenever. And the last thing I do with these words is, you know how I was talking about intonation before? So when you're talking in a sentence and with one thing you start to go up in your pitch. So I want to be able to do that, but still maintain the flow. So it's basically working on pitch with flow. So if I were to say think, you might think that, you might think that, you may think that. So I want to be able to do that. And the way to do it is as follows. So think, thought, thyroid. Maybe I go halfway through the sentence to make it a little easier. Maybe if there's syllables in it, I kind of go on the last syllable. I go a little higher. Thing, thigh, straight, super, side, on your side, on your side. Simple, it's not as simple as that. Strange, how, Hulu, her. This is particularly well handmade. However, shambles, are you actually sure? Are you actually sure? Champagne, shimmy, show, whenceforth. Why is it like this? Which room is he in? I went to the store and there was a big problem. I went to the store and there is a big problem. This happens whenever I get here. So there it is. So I have my voice app up again. The link is in the description for App Store and for Android. So I basically want to be within D3 to F4. That's the main place I want to be, and I'm just going to talk a little casually because you kind of have to talk a little casually to see where you actually are, because you could be super crazy and in practice and you're talking like you're talking to kids. But sometimes you just have to go in a little casually. Sometimes you get a little quieter, and sometimes your pitch gets a little lower. So I'm just talking a little bit like this. Now, the thing is, I find with flow, your pitch sometimes might actually go down, but I've come to find that in other ways, it's actually easier to get to a proper pitch when you have flow within. Osborne's excessive substance abuse led to his firing in 1979. He was replaced by former Rainbow vocalist Ronnie James Dio. Following 2 albums with Dio, Black Sabbath endured many personal changes in the 1980s and 1990s that included vocalists Ian Gillan, Glenn Hughes, Ray Gillan, and Tony Martin. Osborne's excessive substance abuse led to his firing in 1979. He was replaced by former Rainbow vocalist Ronnie James Dio. Following 2 albums with Dio, Black Sabbath endured many personal changes in the 1980s and 1990s that included vocalists Ian Gillan, Glenn Hughes, Ray Gillan, and Tony Martin. So I basically want to get into D3 to F4. So that's the range and that's the pitch that I want to be able to get to. Now, as you can see, as I speak more casually, I'm actually not all the time fitting into that pitch, and I know that that is the pitch that I still need to work on. You'll find that if you get like really quiet and like you start to speak a little more casually, that you're not as performing as well. So right now I'm like B2 to F3, and then if you're like, you know, sleeping and stuff, you're kind of down here. And so I have to be able to meet all of those. I have to be able to meet D3 to F4 on every occasion, in casual conversations, in outside of voice sessions. So if I'm talking to a coworker, talking to my girlfriend, and I'm talking a little quietly, or I'm really, really mad, that's kind of what I have to do. I usually do like 5 minutes of this, but this app I do not trust whatsoever. It's go record, and I recorded like 3 minutes of it and it didn't work. It didn't show up. So at least you have that. So there you go. So last thing I'm going to do is work on doing an impression of somebody. So basically what was happening was I would do an impression of someone and my voice would go down. It's almost like, and then he was like, "Oh, so you think it should be like this?" So apparently from what actually happens is males develop a thicker vocal cord, which is the reason they can go down like this. And this is why my original voice was like this. But the thing is, females don't develop that thick of vocal cords, so getting to this right here is impossible. And so when I did that impression, it kind of clocks me, right? Because when I do like an impression like this, no woman can do an impression like that, right? The way I'm getting around that, you basically do a voice that I believe it's dark, but want to keep it in the same pitch as the voice I'm doing right now. So if I were to do D3 to F4, so if I pull up my vocal pitch monitor, so I am talking like this. I am usually within C3 to D4. My goal is D3 to E4. And so whatever this is, I want to be able to, when I do an impression, usually of a man, I want it to be within this range, except darker. So what ends up happening is I kind of sound like I'm a Nancy Cartwright voice. So Nancy Cartwright does the voice of Bart Simpson and Nelson. So usually I would be like this and like, "Oh, well, you want to, get rid of all these people and all this." So that's a lot lower.
But if I were to talk a little bit more like this, see, it's actually darker, but my pitch is actually the same. But it sounds like when you have older sisters and they're impersonating their little brother, which was in my case. This is what it actually more naturally sounds like and more resembles. So if I were to read stuff, that same year, Iommi and Butler were joined by Dio and drummer Vinny Appice to record Dehumanizer. It's all the same, and sometimes that would vary. They reunited in 2011 and released their final studio album and 19th overall, 13, which features all of the original members except Ward. There you have it. So, I feel a little energized, I feel a little tired. That is essentially what I'm up to right now. A whole bunch of different exercises to meet certain objectives. So if you do like voice sessions sort of like this, hopefully that maybe it helps you out. Definitely let me know, because I would look forward to basically recording my voice journey with you. And hopefully it could give you an idea as to what to expect from a speech therapist, or what to expect when you are trying to feminize your own voice. If you have any questions concerning voice training and the sort of hurdles and stuff like that you have to work towards, feel inclined to ask me any questions and comment down below. I am not a big YouTuber, so I will surely answer all of your questions. Here's the first in real-time voice training session, a whole bunch of different exercises, and this is the 10 ways to feminize your voice as I see fit. Stay beautiful, everyone. Take care.